Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 121, I think, hopefully, of the Internet Shell podcast. I'm your host, Sean Vowells. I've got Joe Meade with me, and today we are previewing Big Ten football week 11. So, getting closer and closer, Joe, to the the end of the season here. We're going to have our first college football playoff rankings by the time that this episode comes out. So getting closer and closer here. We've got a few interesting games, maybe a potential upset or two. We're going to start in Happy Valley. The number 2 Indiana Hoosiers go to play Penn State, who are still looking for their first Big Ten win. 12 o'clock. It'll be on Fox. Joe, this is definitely the toughest game left on the schedule for Indiana. Do you think there's any chance Penn State can make things interesting here?
I really don't because I think Penn State's main method of attack against Ohio State was the run game with Katron Allen. While I do think he will have some big runs in this game and definitely some runs that kind of gets the offensive line out of sticky situations. Indiana, we saw last week, was very good at shutting down the run. We've seen it all year. I mean, Sean's made points and we've made points all year that this team's really a lot better because their rushing attack on offense is better and because their defense as a whole is way better. I'll kind of let Sean expand on the evolution of it, but in terms of this game, they're gonna have to make Ethan Grunkmeyer beat them. I think he's capable of doing it. I think he was a little inaccurate last week. I think the pass rush of Ohio State had a lot to do with it. I do think Indiana can pressure him in the same way, but I'm also particularly encouraged that Penn State's had two pretty spirited efforts since James Franklin's been fired. I thought they looked good against Iowa in spurts, and I thought they looked good in spurts even against the number one team in the country. So I definitely don't think this will be a blowout. I know the line indicates like a two-score game. Maybe Indiana covers, but I don't see a non-spirited effort from Penn State, which is what Indiana gets from a lot of teams after they kind of get ahead early. I do think Penn State's going to show a lot of fight in this game. I think Allen's going to bail them out of a few situations. I also think Grunkemeyer is going to make a few more throws than he did last week if he settles in. But ultimately, shot, I think Mendoza and this and the rushing attack, whatever pops first is what they're going to keep going to. And Jim Knowles, I think, has failed to adjust a lot of the season. I think he's been a little over aggressive blitzing. I don't think he's had much of a choice. I just think against Indiana, it's not going to lead to much success. Give me the Hoosiers to win this one by a score 34-17. I think Penn State kind of sticks around there, like the 10-14 deficit, and I think Indiana kind of delivers a blow late in the middle of the fourth to really put this out of reach.
Yeah, this one is noon kick. Don't know if this is going to be a typical Beaver Stadium crowd. I think that's good for Indiana's sake. It's just going to come down to can they continue to just break the will of teams, right? Penn State's going to go into this one thinking they have a chance to win. If you can score early, get up 10-0, you know, they're not going to quit because I think they've done a good job of not doing that, but their will be broken a little bit, right? Every team in every game in every sport steps on the field tied to start the game. You have a chance to win if the game is tied. Now, if you're playing a team way better than you, you go down early. All right, so what? But can this Indiana offense continue to just get chunk plays, hit open players, get to third and manageable, and then convert? They were a little bit slow against Maryland. It was an interception and then a punt, but they were quickly able to turn that around. Defensively, there's a number of injured players who we're not sure if they'll be available or not. I would lean towards Fisher, Surratt, Williams all being in there. Hopefully that doesn't change, but we see Indiana not get respect from the national media, Joe, because their schedule hasn't been the hardest. Certainly wasn't last year, and of course all the teams that the media is protecting drop games that they're not supposed to. This would be a game that one of those teams would drop. Penn State is hungry. There's still a chance they get to bowl eligibility, but the way that Cignetti's Hoosiers have shown up, they have not ever taken anybody lightly in 2 years. They've crushed everybody that they've been better than, and they've lost to teams that are way better than them. Don't think that's the case here. I think Indiana starts off pretty solid. Don't know if Penn State can keep them under 30, and I don't know if Penn State can get to more than 21 or 24 points. So I'm going to go Indiana 37, Penn State 20. All right, Joe, let's go to 1 o'clock here in the state of Indiana. Ohio State, 28.5-point favorites here as they go to West Lafayette to take on Purdue. Probably the less said about this one, the better.
Yeah, I mean, I think Purdue showed a spirited effort last week, as we mentioned, the Big House. I think a lot of that was malfeasance on the Wolverines' part. Regardless, I think Coach Odom's teams, as we said, you're gonna get sick of me saying it. This is a much improved squad. I just don't think it's to the point where they're gonna be able to contend back to back weeks with teams like that are top 15, top 20 caliber, and now you're facing the cream of the crop, which is the Ohio State Buckeyes. So this is a game I think Ohio State probably continues to try to get their run game some momentum going late into the year. I think if they do get into some situations, Purdue secondary struggled all year. You know what the out pitch there is or the cheat code is. It's Jeremiah Smith, Cardell Tate, even a Max Clare, the former Boilermaker. Maybe something to watch here, but I don't think this is going to be much of an entertaining watch. Give me the Buckeyes to win this game 38-3.
When you've got a Ohio State running a rushing attack that has not been as effective as they've probably hoped, maybe they try and get that going here. But yeah, if they want to, they can be up by 30 at halftime here. I'm going to go Ohio State 50, Purdue 7. All right, let's go back to the Garden State, Joe. Here on 2:30 on FS1, it's Mike Loxley and Maryland looking for win number 5, as Greg Schiano and Rutgers also are looking for win number 5. Rutgers very slight favorites here at 1.5 points. Both teams sort of spinning here out of control. And a win really makes a bowl a possibility, and a loss will get their coach's seat a little hotter than it already is. But could be a good game here.
Yeah, Sean and I were kind of talking off air on Sunday. We were talking about how there was a fake rumor about Mike Loxley's seat not only being hot, but being so hot that he was kicked off it. I don't think that's true. We're recording this early in the week, so we're going to proceed with the idea he's still the coach. Regardless, Jacob Washington would be playing. This is a game. Who can establish the two-pronged attack first? Both these teams against Indiana and for Maryland, and then Illinois for Rutgers struggled to get any semblance of run game going. I think if Antoine Raymond can get loose a few times, it's going to really open things up for Athen Calicmanis, who I think's been really solid all year in spite of Rutgers' 4-5 record. I think this is a game Greg Schiano wins. I just think it makes sense. It's at home. They desperately need one. I think they can make that senior day game against Penn State a real historic one for the program. I know it would just be to go 6-6, but I don't think they've ever beaten Penn State, or it's been a damn long time since then. So I think Rutgers recognizes the importance of this game for their program. I don't think Schiano by any means is on the hot seat. I think that's more a Loxley thing. So give me Rutgers to win this one, Sean. I think they win an ugly 23-17 game. I just think this is coming off a loss, coming home, really need the win. And I think Athen Calicmanis' experience leads him to protect the ball. And I think Jacob Washington turns it over one too many times.
I've got Rutgers 35, Maryland 31. And we've talked about it a couple times over the year here that these teams sort of at the middle here, when they have a chance to win, like a legit real chance to win, like that they should probably be motivated by that. And this is sort of not really become a rivalry, but both these teams joined the Big Ten at the same time. They're the two on the East Coast. Like, this is a big one. This team season could get to a success with a win here. I just think it's going to be a pretty back and forth offensive one. I think there'll be some trick plays, potentially a fake punt. I'm going to give Rutgers a slight edge, though. I think in shootouts, they actually might benefit from that just a little bit more. But could go either way. All right, Joe, we've got Oregon going to Kinnick Stadium to play the Iowa Hawkeyes on at 3:30. I believe this game is on CBS. This is also where Big Noon Kickoff is going, um, which is usually they go to the noon game, but they aren't this week. That's at Happy Valley. The Big Noon Crew is going to Iowa. But this is a sneaky, really big game here. Iowa 6-2 on the year has gotten into my top 25, and Oregon 7-1 on the year. Still looking to get back in the top of the pile here. Oregon -6.5. Iowa's both these teams have kind of just plodded along since they've lost, but big one here that could go either way.
This is such a fascinating game to me, Sean. I think both these teams have played really well. Um, I think Iowa's loss to Iowa State starting to make less and less sense to me. This is a team I think that's played Indiana the best. And I know Gradowski was out for a portion of that game. Let's factor that into. I think Indiana also wasn't necessarily their A game that day. Regardless, two teams that gave probably the second best team in the country their like a very good game. Dante Moore, I think this game's going to come down to him. Can he protect the ball? Can he continue to move the offense? This is the ultimate test for, I don't want to say a young quarterback, but for a quarterback where this is his first year as a full starter for a team that's supposed to be contending. Let's call it what it is, Sean. Um, can he outsmart or can he not overthink the Phil Parker? Because that's a big thing we've seen quarterbacks do. I think he got Mendoza into a few jams, and Mendoza is clearly a more experienced and seasoned quarterback than Dante Moore. Can they move the ball on the ground? This is going to be a ball security in this game for both teams, whether it's Gradowski running. Um, is going to be such a big factor. Ultimately, Sean, I think Iowa gets them here. I know it's a 3:30. I know it's not a night game because I would have confidently picked Iowa. I just think Gradowski can make enough plays with his legs to extend drives, and I think Dante Moore had a similar theme to a Jacob Washington. I think he's going to turn it over one too many times here. Give me Iowa to pull off the upset, 24-23. I think they kick a late field goal late. I think Gradowski bails them out of a lot of situations, and I think Iowa really makes this playoff race in the Big Ten very interesting, as well as the Indianapolis hunt. Because remember, like Michigan, their other loss is out of the conference.
And we see both of those teams at 4-1. Um, it would have to be the winner of this game would go if something happens to IU or Ohio State, but for these teams to jump Indiana have to lose twice because both of their losses are to the Hoosiers. But Joe, for me, the key to this one is, can Dante Moore stay patient? Right, you're not going to have to come out of the blocks hot against this Iowa team. You're going to have to put your defense in good positions. You're going to have to not turn the ball over. You might have to play some field position games, because if you give Iowa good field position, this year they have really been good at finishing drives. They haven't scored a billion points, but they haven't gone 3 and out as much. They've, played the field position game, and they've converted in the red zone. This is one that I think should be a little bit closer to a toss-up for me, but Oregon is looking to get people's respect back a little bit because their Penn State win hasn't aged very well. They sort of got dominated on their own field, and Dante Moore has, not since the Indiana game he hasn't looked great. But I'm going to say they're going to get him here barely, but one that is going to look like a true pick 'em. But I'm going to go Oregon 22, Iowa 17. All right, Joe, let's go up to Madison, Wisconsin at Camp Randall here as the ranked Washington Huskies look. Washington's in the same position as Michigan here. They have 2 losses. They've got a big opponent in the last game. They go on the road here as 11.5-point favorites to play the Badgers, who are still looking for their first Big Ten win. Wisconsin sort of firmly at the bottom of the league here. I know we have multiple teams without a Big Ten win, but Wisconsin seems furthest from one. Washington's been a little bit inconsistent on the offensive end this year with some great efforts, some poor efforts against some of the better defenses. But Washington has to insert their will here offensively, and this one shouldn't be very close.
Yeah, this is a game where Wisconsin's run defense, which has been pretty good all year, that's the one bright side I think Luke Fickle's even continued to praise. can Jonah Coleman be enough of a factor where Damon Williams can operate smoothly? I think when Jonah provides some semblance of a run game, uh, Damon Williams, outside of the Ohio State and Michigan games, has been phenomenal. Whether that's him creating plays with his legs or just throwing to Denzel Boston, I think this is a game where Damon Williams can't do what he did against Michigan. If he protects the ball and even gets two first downs of possession, I find it very challenging for Washington to lose this game. I know the away factor and whatnot, and I know there's no team more dangerous than a team with nothing to lose. I just find it hard to believe that Jed Fish is gonna be in a position where he's gonna be overly aggressive. I think he'll take calculated risk in this game, and based on Jed Fish's coaching experience, whether it's been at UCLA as the play caller, Arizona, and now at Washington, this is a guy I trust to come up with game plans against teams that he's better than. I think Washington might not cover, but I think they win decently comfortably. Give me the Huskies to win this one. I think pretty lackluster, like a 27-17 type game. I do think their defense is going to struggle. I think Damon's going to give them one turnover that'll lead to a TD. I just don't think they're going to outscore Jed Fish in Washington.
It seems like Washington can still stay patient here and probably not start off well and still be okay. The Huskies' offense is best when they've got multiple things going, and you stop one problem and then another one arises. So I look for Washington to sort of spread the rock early, get a bunch of people touches, and see if they can pull away here. I don't know if they will, but I think they definitely win by double digits. So I'm going to go Washington 23, Wisconsin 10. All right, Joe, let's finish out the week out in California. And I think we forgot the Friday game, so we're going to have to go back and talk about that.
Yeah.
But Nebraska, without Dylan Raiola, heading out to play UCLA, who are still looking at bowl eligibility. They're favorites by 2.5 here. And Joe, with the quarterback news in Lincoln, UCLA is going to be licking their chops here.
Yeah, I think TJ Lateef in limited action. He's done just okay. The problem is, I think Dylan Raiola is a very good college quarterback, and I know a lot of people are going to criticize me because they're going to point to the Minnesota game and some of his less flattering moments in some of their wins, such as the Northwestern game. There's a reason. 9 times out of 10, there's a reason the starter is the starter. Let's call it what it is, Sean. I think TJ Lateef's still a freshman. I think he gets a little antsy in the pocket, and this is a criticism. This is just, what he's going to have to grow into as he learns very late into the season. I don't think they're going to quite get that offense production. I think their weapons are good. I think Emmett Johnson, this is going to be another game he's going to really have to carry that offense. I think they should be a little creative and maybe run Lateef a little too, just to give the offense an extra outlet. Because that aerial passing attack is going to be a significant downgrade, no matter how you want to spin it to me. The bottom line for this game, Sean, is can UCLA continue to exploit the fact Nebraska's rush defense is putrid? Can that be Nico Abali? Could that be Nico just running wild? Could that be Jalen Berger continuing to impress? I really don't know, to be honest. Like, I see this game as the hardest to predict. I'm gonna roll with UCLA here. I think Coach Neuheisel, they kind of got stymied against Indiana. I really don't think that was indicative of the strides they've made. I think they get back on track here. I think the Bruins actually do score a lot in this game. I think they might have a slow first half, but once they crack Nebraska's D line and that defense gets out of control, I think kind of genie's out of the bottle and they could just take over this game. Give me UCLA to win this one 31-20.
I've got 31-27 Bruins. I don't know if Nebraska can keep up with them offensively. I think UCLA might want to open this one up. They have proven that they can be an explosive offense. Nebraska can't, they can't give up chunk plays. They can't give up, touchdowns. I think UCLA's offense might be too fast for them, and I think UCLA picks up a victory. And Bruins going bowling is going to be real after this week. All right, let's turn the calendar back to Friday. Forgot about this one. Also in Los Angeles, we've got Northwestern at 5-3, looking for bowl eligibility as they face the 6-2 USC Trojans. 9 p.m. Eastern on Fox. USC 14.5-point favorites. Both of these teams are having pretty solid seasons, but USC, if they have a chance at the playoff, it's going to come with a big win here.
Yeah, I don't foresee USC struggling in this game. This is a spot a lot of teams have been it out late on the West Coast. I mean, Michigan State this year clearly not a good team. Rutgers last year was a pretty solid team, and then they got dominated pretty quickly in that game. Um, you know, I'm gonna be honest with you, Sean. USC is going to have to do a lot on offense really poorly, which is AKA turning the ball over to lose this. I don't think Preston Stone and Northwestern can necessarily generate enough offense to really compete for more than 2.5 quarters, and that's being generous. I really like the squad Coach Broad's put together. I think they've definitely exceeded me and Sean's expectations. I don't think they're to the point yet where they can compete in this game if USC is in any rhythm offensively. Give me the Trojans to win this one, let's call it 35-16. Um, I think Northwestern's done some good things most of the year. I just think this is going to require an overperformance I just don't really see coming, to be honest with you.
I don't see USC having as poor of an offensive performance as they did last week. And I know they won, but I don't think they look that bad again. And like you said, Northwestern probably just can't keep up. And, Northwestern has won a few games where we've said that, like at Penn State. But they barely won that Penn State game, and Penn State made a ton of mistakes. Like, so much is going to have to go right for Northwestern to win this game. I just don't see it. I think USC gets back on track with their pass game and gets this one up there pretty quickly. I'm going to go USC 38, Northwestern 14. All right, Joe. Well, that is it for Week 11. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.